Hello again, this is Randy back in the shop today. Today we're going to be starting on a new engine build. It's a 357 cubic inch small block, and we're using a brand new Dart little M block. It's 4-inch 135 bore with a 3-inch 330 stroke. It's got a Callie's crank going in it, or not a Callie's, a Bryant crank going in it, and Callie's connecting rods, diamond pistons. It's going to have a solid roller cam in it. It's going to use Brodix 18 degree. They're actually 18X heads, which are similar to the 18 degree Chevrolet bow tie heads that were on the other motor, the 380 motor I just finished up. Actually, these heads probably flow a little better than the Brodix ones, than the Chevrolet bow tie heads did. I got to get all new valves for those heads. One of the heads, the chamber, the motor had dropped the valve in originally and just destroyed the chamber. Sent some pictures to Brodix. They said they could fix it, so I sent the head out to Brodix to have it fixed. It come back, it looks brand new. So I got to order valves for that, and springs and locks and retainers. Gonna put titanium valves in this one. Solid roller cam. I'd like to dry sump this one because I have the dry sump pan for it. But I don't know if the owner wants to spend the money to actually dry sump it, because to dry sump a car you have to buy the oil pan, which I already have, but you need an oil tank and you need a pump, because it takes an external pump, and you have to fabricate the lines and get a mandrel for the front, and pulleys and a belt and all that. It's a little bit more work. But what's nice about it is you don't have the windage problem with the crank picking up the oil at higher RPM, and you can pretty much set the oil pressure on the pump itself externally. So if you want to change the amount of pressure that the motor has, you can either change the regulator in the pump, or you can slow the pump down slightly to do it that way. But anyway, I'm going to get started on that new build. The block has been had the line board done on it because I had to make spacers, because the crank is early small journal Chevy. So that part is done. The block has been final honed. I already checked it for the deck clearance. I had the block decked, and now I'm going to put the cam bearings in, which is a kit that comes from Dart. When you buy a block, it's a Dart block kit. Here it comes with the coated cam bearings in it, and the Dart blocks, all the bearings are the same size, and so that makes it a little easier. And in the block itself, where the bearing goes, like in a normal small block Chevy, the housing bore will have a relief in it, and the oil flows around the cam bearing. These particular Dart cam bearings in them, they have a relief machined in the back of the bearing, because the cam bore is straight. The housing bore for the cam bearing is straight, and this block has priority main oiling, so they machined the back of the bearing here, and it's got oil holes in it, so it don't matter which orientation you put these in, they will oil. The only thing that creates a problem is if you have some kind of major failure where it gets a lot of trash in the oil. it's almost impossible to clean all that out from around these bearings here when that happens. So then you need to just knock the bearings out and re-clean the block real good and just put another set of cam bearings in. But these cam bearings here are Teflon coated, and they will basically last the life of the motor short of some major failure. That's what's really nice about them. The block kit also comes with all the soft plugs, the brass freeze plugs, and it comes with the rear cam plug, and also with all your oil galley plugs and your dowel pins and all that. All that is in this bag right here. So I'm going to get started on putting the cam bearings in and put the soft plugs in, and I'll see you back at the motor. Be back in a minute. All right, I got you back over at the block here, and I'm going to start at the rear. And to help locate the bearing through the oil galley hole here, what I do is I put some black Sharpie marker in that groove, and when I can see the black through that oil feed hole, why, then I know that the bearing is in exactly far enough. The bearing installer goes through the cam bearings like this here, and you turn this and you get this put on there like that and tighten the nut up. Good, like that. And line up my black Sharpie mark approximately with the cam bearing journal. And these journals are really sharp on the edge, and what I did when I was deburring the block is I took some emery paper and just broke that edge so it doesn't shave off any material when I tap these in. And let's see here, what do I do with my hammer? I gotta have my hammer. I'll be right back. And we'll pound these in. Here. Check it with light here. See how we're looking. And we gotta go more. Yeah. And I can just see the edge of the oil groove. Now I got to tap it in just a little bit further. Yep. about another 1/4 inch. If that. A couple more hits here. A little bit more. There we go. That should be good right there. Get the rest of these installed here. All right, all the cam bearings installed, and you saw me put the very front bearing in, coming in from the back like this here. And the reason I do that is because when you get down to the front bearing here, you got to put this in, and it's really hard to hold this straight to get it aligned. There's always a possibility that this front bearing could be cocked slightly, and then your cam won't turn. So to eliminate that problem, I just take the end off. This end just unscrews like this here, and slide the cam bearing installer in from the back. Put this on, and then put the bearing in. Because then it's just like you're starting over at the back of the motor here, like this here. This is a cone that centers it up on your cam bearing journal, and just personal preference. This is how I prefer to do it. So probably no right way or wrong way to do it, but that's how I choose to do it. So that's the reason for that. And this block has already been final cleaned. I got it painted, all that. So I'm gonna get ready to put the core plugs in now, and all the oil galley plugs. Put the cam plug in the back, and the block will basically be ready for final assembly. The only thing I have to do yet is put the crank in it, assemble the rods and stuff. I'm gonna put one rod in each corner, one rod and piston in each corner, and I have to check piston to valve clearance. I've been waiting for a timing gear set because the Sonny Bryant crank that's going in this motor has a big block snout on it, so it takes a special timing set, and I got that timing set yesterday. So now it's time to proceed, and I'll be right back. Also, when you get these cam bearings, you open the cover up, and on the one tab on the inside, it shows positions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These here, the housing bore is all the same, so it doesn't matter. But on a small block Chevy, they'll have like position 1 and 5 will be the same bearing number here. This is the bearing number. And number 2 will be a different bearing number. Number 3 will be a different bearing number. And number 4 will be a different bearing number. So you have to make sure that when you, whatever position you're putting in, that you match the number that's on the box. I might actually have an old set of bearings here. Let me grab it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is a set that I've had, and you can see Position 1 is this number. Position 2 and 5 is CH4-4-2. Positions 3 and 4 is CH4-4-3. So you have to pay attention to that, because if you put the wrong bearing in the wrong housing, the bearing will probably slide through, or you'll crush it down so far that your camshaft won't go in. Just a little tip there. When you put your sock plugs in, they go in like this here, and they're pressed in the block. I made this tool up here that rests on the back of the cam plug. It does not push on the actual shoulder of the cam plug right here, because if you peen this over this edge right here, 9 times out of 10 you'll have a leak. And what I do is I put some red Loctite on the outside of the soft plug, put some on the block on the inside where the plug goes in, and drive it in. This has got a step on it, so it only goes so far, so I don't have to worry about driving the core plug through. And you see a lot of blocks, sometimes the guys will go and they'll actually put epoxy around the outside of them, or you'll sometimes find little screws that they drill holes in the block, and they actually put a little screw to cover up this edge right here to keep them from blowing out. But I've been doing it this way for 40 plus years, and I have not had one blow out. So until I do, I'm not going to change what I'm doing. But let's get started on this. So thin coat of red Loctite around the outside, and then just smear your finger around this hole here. And I always like to put all the plugs in the same direction so that they're all lined up nice and neat. I take this here and set this on there like such. Drive her in. That's all there is to it. All right, all the core plugs are in, oil galley plugs are in. I installed the camshaft. See how that turned? That turns nice. Nice and free. Oil galley plugs are in. The cam plug is in on the back there, and those oil galley plugs are in. So the next thing to do is gonna put the bearings back in, install the crank, and rod and piston, and I got to check piston to valve clearance. But first I got to do some work on the heads before I do that. I got to, because the one head that I had fixed, they had ground all the seats and that kind of stuff on it from Bodex. So I got to check the height on the valves on that against the seat, and I'm not sure if it's the right head or the left head that got damaged. I'm pretty sure it's the left one. So I got to compare the seat height on that head to the head that wasn't fixed, and I have to grind the seats all to the same height. That way your piston to valve clearance is all the same. And if I got to do anything with fly cutting the pistons for valve clearance and whatnot, but it's coming along, and be right back. All right, I'm back over at the bench now. That's about all I'm going to do on that today. One thing I forgot to mention too, in a previous video on doing the setting up the Ford 9-inch ring and pinion, it's not so critical with a new ring and pinion, but when you have an old ring and pinion, when you're checking about the backlash, to rotate the ring gear and check your backlash in 2 or 3 different spots to make sure that you don't have a tight or loose area. If you do, then you just have to set the ring gear backlash by averaging out your difference between your high and your low and set your backlash that way. But with the new ring and pinion, generally you don't have those run out problems, and I forgot to mention that when I was talking about if you use setting up a used ring and pinion. But anyway, hope everybody's having a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.